Hello, friends. This is George Armistead, and I am here with my co-host today, Alvaro Jaramillo. Alvaro, how are you doing, bud?
Doing well. It's actually sunny here in California today on the coast, which is not the norm. I know it's always sunny where you are in
That's right.
Philadelphia, but not here all the time.
Yeah, beautiful day here. Wrapping up May. Kristen and I did a quick shoot down to the Edwin B. Forsyth National Wildlife Refuge, and testing out my new mirrorless rig. So that was real good. And yeah, trying to get good with that rig before we head off for Alaska here real soon.
It could take time to get good, George.
I think it shall. Quite an adjustment. Yeah. Yeah. Well, we have something different for everybody today. I think probably the title of this episode will make it clear what it is. And we alluded to it in our previous roundtable episode with Molly. And this was a conversation, not an interview, but a conversation really with one of our very best friends and arguably our most revered colleague, Thomas B. Johnson. And I think at the time that we recorded this, we thought this would probably be the first of, probably a couple times
Many.
recording. Yeah.
Yeah.
At least a couple, if not many times recording with Tom. And it was just a month before we lost him. And yeah, I mean, that just hit us all incredibly hard and changed everything. And I don't know about you, Alvaro. It took me a while to be able to listen to this conversation. I think originally we didn't have a specific time that it was going to air, but it was going to go out probably around, August 1st or something like that. It took me a while to be able to listen to it, but I got to a point where hearing Tom's voice was both hard and felt good all at once.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, looking back on this conversation is tough.
Listening to it now, it's comforting to hear Tom just being Tom. I thought about the fact that, if you remember, George, you were both in the same room, and it wasn't the regular setup, and there was this delay or echo or something that Tom was hearing as he was doing this recording. But true professional that he was, he just kind of went along with it, and it was probably hard for him to sort of sneak in comments here and there because of that echo. I thought about things like that. I thought also about the fact that, after Tom passed, we thought we may never air this, that it may just sit. But as time has gone by, we realized too that a lot of people didn't get to know Tom, and a lot of his friends miss Tom. So we're hoping that this will allow some folks to get an introduction to what Tom was like, and for some of his friends to maybe be comforted by hearing, just chat birds, real nerd bird stuff, offshore birds, sort of the classic stuff we talk about. That's why we're doing this now. Mm-hmm.
Well said. And I think one thing folks will probably hear is that I was really excited for a couple reasons, and maybe a little more overly verbose than even normal. I was excited because Tom and our friends, we were setting off for this adventure into Alberta to go explore and look for birds and mammals. And I was just excited to record with Tom, just because we loved him so much, and we knew that he liked to listen, and he loved. There's so many comments that he would send to us, ribbing us, giving us a hard time, and about it. So. Yeah, and the delay, I think there he did experience that little delay. So there was times where he didn't, I think, chime in quite as quickly as he might have. But as you say, he handled it. He handled it really, really well. So
Yeah. And I guess maybe we ramp up this introduction by saying hopefully you get to know Tom, and maybe you'll understand why Tom was so liked by everybody who came into his orbit, and the fact that he was funny. He was a big Taylor Swift fan. He mentioned her once or twice during this whole thing.
Huge Swiftie.
Huge Swiftie, and also just so knowledgeable, but calm and cool and fun about all the his knowledge. He was not a person who came across in a way that you would even know he was the birder of his magnitude that he was. He would just come off as sort of a regular person when you met him, and that's how we always we remember him. As that sort of fun person who was just also incredible at what he did.
Well said. With that, I think we should turn it over to, the recording, where you'll hear us just chewing the fat with Tom about seabirds, pelagic birding, weird things offshore, photography, digital photography, mirrorless photography.
And even Halloween candy, I think. But
a little bit of Halloween candy talk as well. That's right. We hope you enjoy this conversation with Tom. There should be some good stuff in the show notes as well, where you can learn more about him. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thank you.
Welcome to Life List, a birding podcast.
Hello and welcome, everybody. This is Life List, a birding podcast. I'm George Armistead here with my co-host, Alvaro Jaramillo. Alvaro, what's happening, man?
Hey, how you doing? How's it going?
Good. I am here with not one, but two good friends. One of them you can see on your screen. The other you may hear panting in the background. I'll dispense with the suspense. The panting one is the dog. Sullivan, James P. Sullivan. The other is Thomas Johnson. Tom, welcome to the show. We've been waiting to have you here for a long time. It's very good to have you here now.
George, Alvaro, thanks. It's good to be here, and I'm not going to rule out panting for later in the episode.
Yeah, we were hoping for some good panting.
Happens.
Yeah, wouldn't be the first time. You know what I was remembering the other day was when we recorded with Dan and that train went through. You remember that?
Oh yeah. It was like a full-on train, like
it was like he lived like right next to a New York subway, just like rattling his whole house. Like, man.
Yeah, I mean, I'm waiting for an earthquake or something to happen with one of these when we're doing one of these, and I'll be going, "Oh my God, George!"
Yeah.
If you just see me like drop to the floor or something.
Yeah.
So we can see each other, you see, folks, when we're recording these things. So that's why we're talking about seeing screens and all that. So.
Usually it helps. Sometimes can be distracting though.
That's right. And you're making sure that we're not, Tom's not falling asleep from our banter.
Yeah. It's not clear to me that he's still awake. Oh yeah, no, he's still awake. Yeah.
He's there.
Well, sometimes I do put these on when I'm feeling a little insomnia in the evenings, and I can just set the timer to end when current episode ends, put a little life list on, and boom.
It's a great little lullaby, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Nothing like it. Right. It's nothing like it. It's kind of like falling asleep on a boat. It's so nice.
Yes. Yes.
My other go-to is Large Gulls of North America. Just the audio track.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
That is classic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I still got the VHS of that one someplace. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Tom is here in Philadelphia right now. Tomorrow, we're setting off for Calgary. Tom, you want to tell folks what we're doing in Calgary?
Well, we've done very little preparation for this, but we're going to go do a little bit of bird watching between the western prairies and the east slope of the Canadian Rockies and see what we find.
Any life taxa out there that you're hoping for?
Well, yeah, I'd love to see Franklin's spruce grouse.
Yes.
Could be really cool.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Go for something easy.
Are they easy?
No.
Yeah. I was going to say.
No. I mean, especially this time of year, I think it's probably, unless you find, little chicks running around or something, then they can be. Yeah.
It would be nice to find like a male that was still real. Like they're real black, right? The Franklins, they're real black. They're just real cool looking.
I've never seen one, but we did this big day in British Columbia once, and I was out in the Okanagan, and with Cannings, and he's like sort of the expert out there, and we're out in the middle of the night doing owls, and then this funny sound happened. It was like a snap, and then it was like clap, clap, and I'm like, what the heck is that? And he said, oh, it's Franklin's spruce grouse. It actually jumps off a tree, falls to the ground, and snaps its wings twice as it falls. And I said, what?
Wow.
I'd never heard of this, and I'd never heard that the eastern ones did that.
Huh.
And I'm still kind of think like that needs to be looked at more.
Yeah.
I actually just heard the taiga bird displaying a month ago, and it's more, well, Doug Gotchfeld does a really good imitation of it, but
Oh, wow.
it's basically a and it flies a short arc.
And that's
this was like
all mechanical, snap. Like just like it's yeah.
Well, I think so. It's hard to ask.
Yeah, it's true. You don't speak spruce grouse. Full hen, maybe.
It does,
but not spruce grouse.
Yeah, what's that one that's on the Russian side? Is it called Siberian grouse or something? I'd like to see that. You guys know what I'm talking about? It's really restricted range, and it looks kind of spruce grousey.
I think we have an embargo against discussing that one right now.
Yeah, I don't know if that's allowed.
Right. No, I'd like to see it. Doesn't mean I want to. There's a lot of things I'd like to see that I never will see. But that's right.
I was trying to Google Russian grouse real quick to see if I could get up to speed here. I'm dipping so far.
I'll find it. I'm good at that while you guys keep talking.
One of my, I don't know if I've told you guys about this or not, but one of the most profound, moving birding experiences I ever had, where I was honestly moved to tears. I was literally fighting back tears at how I was like, this is one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen.
I didn't realize you got tickets to the Taylor Swift concert.
I'm a Swiftie, man. Hey, she showed up. I sent you that thing. She showed up the other day. We're in the Eagles. We're in the Eagles jersey, man. She's all Philly now. We claim her. She's ours. Yeah. No, it was a spruce grouse, the fool hen, arguably the stupidest bird in North America. Some would say, not I, but some would say. And it was me and John Rowlett with a group in Field Guides Tour Churchill, and we I forget if we were looking specifically for spruce grouse or not, but we had a male just displaying for a female. It was early June, and the thing was just at our feet, and it just didn't care about us at all. It was just like, and like we'd kind of gotten away from, the main road. Like we're kind of like pretty tucked away where we had it. And all of us were just like, it literally was like, someone had plopped you there. You were in a time machine. None of the other animals could see you. And this thing was just doing its thing. Like we didn't exist. And I don't know, something about it was just deeply, deeply moving, profound. And like, yeah, people, there were like everyone, there were like, this is back 2004 or something. Someone's like, using an old video camera, and someplace I think I still have that video. Yeah, exactly. Like motion picture style. Yeah. But yeah, like spruce grouse. Yeah. I mean, they're pretty amazing birds. So I'd love to see this Franklin's one. That'd be way, way cool.
Thinking about who's clever or not in the bird world, I was two days in a row at the Farallon Islands, right? Looking at many, like hundreds of thousands of common murres. And we weren't moving, we're just sort of sitting there kind of watching everything. And there would be murres that would be flying in towards the boat. And you're thinking, well, they see us and we're not really moving. And then right at the last moment, they'd go, oh my God, and they would like, the feet would flare out, and then they would, do this. They're not good at turning. They're good at a lot of things, but turning, they're not good at. I, nearly missed about, and I thought, boy, that's kind of dumb. But then I thought, like, maybe they actually can't see all that well. Like, perhaps like being a diver, their eyes are just not all that good or something in terms of, distance approach or something.
Maybe they're just used to looking down. No. Like they're like,
or maybe they're looking down, or maybe they just, they don't pay attention. But I thought I've seen it many a time, right? And I just started thinking about it because we weren't moving. It wasn't like, we had come into its path. We were in its path for a long time, and it just didn't move until we were really close, or it was close to us. But Siberian grouse, it's called falcipennis. And I look at a picture of it, and it's like, it's got spruce grouse written all over it.
I was trying to prevent you guys from getting censored on iTunes, but there we go.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's found in the, part of it is in that, I think in some of the areas that Japan and Russia sort of are.
Wow.
No
memory of this bird.
Yes.
But I see what you mean. It is like looking at the range map. There's not much to it.
Yeah. Yeah, but it does look spruce grousey to me.
For sure. 100%.
Yeah. And I bet it behaves similarly to
Falcipennis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So what's your plan do you want to talk more about, Canada, or do you have like, other than the grouse, anything else you guys are looking for? And
I feel like Doug's in charge. I don't know if that's really true, and it's a little terrifying.
Nobody informed me of this. It is terrifying. Yeah, I think we're going to start in Calgary. We're going to go a little to the east. We're going to go a little to the west. And we'll just see all the birds we can see and probably not mess around with the plan too much and just kind of kick it birding style.
We're going to see all the birds. All the birds.
I like that.
Yeah.
All the birds. Yeah. Definitely, if you start getting north into, Edmonton, you do start picking up an eastern element, which may be less attractive to eastern birders, But there's some cool areas there where east meets west and north meets south.
And never the twain shall meet.
Places. Yeah. No, it's definitely, I think that Alberta was one of the best places in terms of birding and natural history that I've ever sort of toured in, where I always feel like I really should go back there again, sort of kind of thing. Just an amazing set of stuff that you can see, and not much, density of people once you get out of the cities. So there's a lot of land to look through, and friendly folks, that don't mind you sort of walking around roads and looking for songbirds in the grasslands and so forth. So it's pretty cool.
I think as more and more of these hybrid zones have been described between British Columbia and Alberta, by Darren Irwin and others, the idea of going to some of these places where east meets west and west meets north those are really interesting places to look at birds.
Yeah.
And I have zero checklists in Alberta to date. It's gonna be a nice little chunk filled in on the North American map.
Yeah. It fills in the entire province, even if you just sample 5% of it, right? And the province is probably, 1/5 the size of all of the lower 48.
Right. Enormous.
I do wonder if those eBird maps have influenced people's travel decisions, like if they've decided against going to Montenegro or Israel or someplace like that because they're not going to get as much pop.
Yeah, prior to last year, I was thinking like people might do like a little like layover in St. Petersburg or something just to like get Russia, just like fill in that whole
These guys
thing.
just will not stop with Russia.
Yeah.
It's big in the news, man. It's big in the news. I should be looking at eBird lists for, last week or so. Maybe, Prigozhin's really been getting around. Maybe he's starting an account. Be interesting to see.
That would be interesting if we could actually track military progress through eBird.
Yeah.
I think he might be starting on his Belarus eBird list pretty soon.
I was going to say Belarus might be really ticking up if so. Yeah.
I'm not sure. It's likely Siberia will be right up there for him pretty soon.
That also seems likely, yes.
Yeah.
A
lot of them.
Before we get too far down the road here, fellas, I feel like we know Tom very well, and probably quite a few of our listeners know Tom or know of Tom, that Tom should give a little intro of himself, what he's doing, how he started in birding. Maybe just give folks a little deep background on TBJ.
If he could explain too how he got so tall, so that we could have tips for doing that.
Supplements.
Well, I am a birder. I currently live in southern New Jersey, and I make a living leading birding tours, like a couple of other guys that I'm talking to right now. I work for Field Guides Birding Tours, and that's kind of what I do most of the time these days. But I grew up birding in Pennsylvania with a birdie family. I credit it mostly to my mom, who grew up as a birder in Oklahoma, and she kind of passed that gift on to my sister and me. And I've been very lucky to spend a lot of time birding, both here in the mid-Atlantic and a little bit further afield. And I've gotten to spend some time with these guys, George and Alvaro, on boat trips on both the East Coast and the West Coast, and really love pelagic birding and taking pictures of birds and looking for weird hybrid birds and sort of puzzling through mysteries about birds and identification, and just love watching bird migration, which has helped anchor me in Cape May, New Jersey, where I live now.
Reasonable place to be. Yeah. Perfectly reasonable.
It's pretty nice.
Yeah. I think the first time I remember meeting Tom was on the pelagic with Brian Pattison, seabirding pelagic off Hatteras. And it was a real good day. It was like a real good day.
Well, that takes me back to August 2004.
That's right. And there was a hurricane, right? It was like there was a storm. I think we met on the beach like the day before, like we were like looking for waif, wind-blown, storm-blown seabirds because we didn't get out that day.
But then we did.
And the next day, I don't know, I'm going to say it was like kind of mid-morning or something. We're seeing some stuff. I don't even remember too much else besides what we saw, but there was certainly one very salient bird that we did see. we came upon a little group. There was quite a number of little flocks of shearwaters that day. Just like little groups. I want to say like 4, 10, 14. Maybe we'd had, I don't know, 4 or 5 such groups, something like that. And Pattison was in the wheelhouse, and I remember him being like, something's not quite right with that bird. And I was like, Brian says something like that, everybody's like goes, like, he knows those birds extremely well. And so we all kind of perked up, and we closed in on it, closed the distance, and it was very clearly a Cape Verde shearwater, which was the first one for North America. How many had been since then? 1 or 2 since then?
Well, there was a well-photographed bird off Massachusetts just last year, and that may be the only other one that's like really well
rock solid.
Photographed.
Yeah, there was like 1 or 2 others, I think, that sounded promising, but maybe not as well documented.
Yeah, I just remember I was up on the pulpit, the bow of the Miss Hatteras, which was the boat
That's
that
right,
we were
the
on
Miss
at
Hatteras.
that point.
Were you singing Celine Dion songs?
Yeah, absolutely.
You've
Yeah.
heard about that. Tom does that a lot, actually. He's well known for his Celine Dion imitations.
And all of a sudden, Brian and George just started freaking out up there. And I think you guys were on the second deck looking out.
Yeah, usually on that boat, I would sit at the top of the steps right in front of the wheelhouse. Usually is where that was my perch.
And I was at the very front of the boat, so I was probably the person who was closest to that shearwater than anybody else at that moment. And this was a revelation to me, the Cape Verde shearwater. So this was pretty exciting business, and then just to see these guys kind of motor through the salient ID points and figure out it's actually kind of an unspectacular bird if you compare it to
How dare you, Thomas?
many other species of tube nose, but it kind of looks like you took a Corey shearwater and a great shearwater and kind of mashed them together a little bit.
Yeah, and kind of muted out some color a little bit of the Corys.
Yeah, check out the good bits.
Yeah. Well, I think what was interesting was like we didn't know how distinctive it would be, and it actually was quite distinctive. When at least, perched on the water, surrounded by other larger shearwaters, it really stuck out, which was helpful.
I want to say that, I remember reading about this in the news, it was probably paper news at that point of birds. It was, not much stuff was going on internet wise, right? But I think it was before this thing was even a species in the US.
I think that's
Canada.
Correct.
So the fact that the fact that you all like picked up on it, and then I was thinking like, what is this thing they're talking about? Then sort of maybe a year or 2 later, then it was split, and I was kind of amazed that you all seem to be on the forefront.
At that point,
this.
would AOU have had a reason to discuss it with their checklist? Had there been South American records accumulating at that point?
I don't think the South American Committee existed, so it was just North American at that point.
They may not have even had it on the checklist, so there may not have been a reason to discuss it at the subspecies or species level.
But you will anyways, even if a certain taxa is not in your area, if it means a change, like they would have discussed it, I think.
Okay.
Or if that was out, but maybe when it happened, then it was sort of like, now we really need to do this. That's interesting to me. You actually pushed it, perhaps.
Yeah. I think we all came to be cognizant of that taxon because of Ned Brinkley. My recollection is he had prepared us for that bird. And it was like, we need to be looking for this thing. And so Pattison had done the research, and we were ready for it. We didn't know that we'd ever actually see it. So that was pretty cool. But then, a couple points on Tom's height, if you'll permit, Tom. This is probably not his favorite subject, but
Some tall tales.
yes. but I think it was like maybe 4 or 5 years before I actually saw you again. And at the time, you would have been like what, 15 or something like that, something like that. 2000, yeah. And the next time I saw you was in Cape May, and like I want to say it was like I don't remember what road it was, but I was birding around Cape May, and this like you rolled up in like a little car, and like you rolled up and you were like George Armistead, and I was like yeah, and then you like got out and like you looked very, very tall and stood over me and like extended your hand down to me and were like Tom Johnson, and I was like little Tom Johnson? I don't think so. I was like I don't think that's I think you're impersonating the Tom Johnson I know.
You make it sound like he sort of unfolded himself out of his car, kind of like an albatross wing.
There you go,
like
the albatross. Yep. Yeah.
That might have been back in the Honda Civic days.
That sounds about right. Yeah. But then another little vignette, if you will, was I think it was during the ABA Young Birder Camp. We did a visit to Cape May. Tom, you were there, and David LaPuma was there. A few others were kind of showing us the ropes around Cape May, telling us the way things work, but we were teaching the campers and everybody about bird migration there. And I remember that I think I ran into you over by the state park office, like by where the restrooms were, by the lighthouse. And you and I ended up walking across the parking lot over to the Hawk platform where all the campers were, and David LaPuma was there. And he saw us approaching, and he was like, huh, that guy really looks just like George, but he is tiny. and then he was like, oh, yeah, it is actually George. It's just next to Tom. Yeah. But anyway, this is probably Tom gets tired of hearing about the being tall.
No, this is great. I go on podcasts all the time. No, it has its advantages. You're closer to the canopy dawn song and closer to overflying migrants.
This is true. Yeah.
If you find yourself in the front of a group of birders, you really have to watch out.
You can pay a price.
Yeah. You start getting tripods jabbed into your back.
That can be dangerous. Yeah. Ant pittas can be tough.
We calculated that the extra height allows him to see about 3 more miles in the ocean.
It's true.
Yeah. If you look, the angles, just do the math.
I hadn't thought about all these advantages.
You don't need that much more to see that much further.
Mm-hmm. The liability, though, at sea is that if you end up with a higher center of mass, it's really a lot easier to tip over the rail.
The potential energy there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Serious.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, speaking of time at sea, I got an email from Jeremiah Trimble. This was maybe a month or so ago, I want to say. And he was like, dude, check this out. And it was a pelagic trip off of Columbia. A sea trip off Columbia. I can't remember if it was a research vessel or it was actually a pelagic trip. I'm not sure which it was. I'll have to take a look. And this birder was out there just, kind of trying to see what they could see. Might have even been like a luxury cruise or something. And it photographed an oil bird flying around out at sea. And I was like, what? That is ridiculousness. Yeah, that is nuts. So it was like, does it say what it, yeah, like those photos are crazy, right? It was like some kind of cruise. I can't read it from here. What does it say? Did he say what his effort was there? What was
this
the
is a 6-hour checklist where they traveled 50 miles. It says they were on an eastbound boat returning from Malpelo Island.
Malpelo, yeah.
And they were approximately 80 nautical miles offshore, west of Buenaventura.
Malpelo, is that where swallow-tailed gulls nest, I think, out there? Or in waved albatross?
The Colombian island. Yeah. No, I don't think waved. Waved is Isla de la Plata.
Isla de la Plata, that's right. Yeah.
But Malpelo is where the swallow-tailed gulls breed outside of the Galapagos.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that just got me thinking about, I cannot imagine that, right? Can you imagine being at sea and having, like, this is kind of a jinx bird for me, oil bird. I've actually never seen one still. I've spent quite a bit of time in areas that they, can be found at least. I haven't, the one time I actually was going to go to a cave where they were known to be, there was a big flood and we couldn't get to the cave. So I feel a little snake bitten on that one. I'm confident I'll get to see him at some point, but like, I just cannot imagine being, 80 miles offshore and having an oil bird flying around.
Now, this is a pretty amazing bird and spectacular too. Before I first saw oil birds, I sort of imagined something like a nightjar, sort of a smaller thing, compact with a funny bill, like a little hooked bill. And then when I saw them, it's a giant bird.
They're big.
And when they flap, they have a giant, huge wingspan, and they're terrifying. They're loud. They make these raucous, sort of gravelly shrieks, and it's a nocturnal frugivore that eats palm fruits.
And I guess because of their diet, they end up, well, in part because of their diet, right? They do wander, right? They have to sometimes go and search out where there might be fruit. If all of a sudden there's a dearth of fruit, maybe where there typically are, they do wander. Like I know they've turned up in Costa Rica, they've turned up in Panama, and maybe even further north.
There's vagrant records in the desert in Chile.
Really?
Yeah.
I think all the breeding sites that are known are in South America, and then there are these sort of regular records now, especially in Costa Rica, of birds that could be migrants that are regularly dispersing to Central America. And maybe they all fly west off the coast of Colombia and then end up in Costa Rica and Panama.
Gosh, need to put some trackers on those things, man.
Yeah. No, it's the number of birds in South America that migrate or move that we don't know about. I think there's a lot of them. We make these assumptions that these are tropical birds and they're residents and that they're just sticking around. But I think a lot of them move quite a bit. And in particular, anything that has, a real cyclic food issue or habitat issue. So, think places that get flooded or dry out or fruits that are specific to a certain period of time. More so than insect eaters, since they might not be as moving around as much as some of those guys within the tropics, right? In the temperate region, the insect eaters really got to move out. But somebody could do a whole, PhD on what is not known and try to sort out the patterns of these sort of intratropical movements and how regular they are, and if they're even annual. Some of them might be just every so often.
Yeah, that I hadn't even thought about this. That one of the things we wanted to talk about today, and the oil bird that Jeremiah sent along kind of triggered this as a potentially interesting topic, was non-pelagic birds showing up on pelagics. And I actually kind of totally forgot about this migration event I had on that cruise off of Argentina. And one of the coolest things we had out there was pale-breasted spinetail. If folks can picture the coast of Argentina, there's sort of a point where it kind of really, there's like almost a right angle where if you're moving south along the coast, it kind of takes a big bend and you've kind of got a right angle. We were kind of like crossing the hypotenuse of that body of water there. And there was a big northwest blow. And all these.
And during migration.
Yes, this was October of 2019.
Time.
And we had a bunch of stuff out there. Like we had southern lapwing flying around way out there. We had guira cuckoos. We had 2 guira cuckoos. We're like 60, 70 miles out. 2 guira cuckoos, pale-breasted spinetail moving around on the deck. I think somebody actually spotted that thing flying in. Of course, it could have been that it was there for a while and left the boat, and then they spotted it when it was flying back to the boat. You never know sometimes. But like, I've got a picture here. I'm looking at this thing. It's sitting on one of our life rafts, the pale-breasted spinetail. There's like the seabirds we were seeing there was hundreds of great shearwaters and Manx shearwaters, and actually I didn't really know to expect that there would be that many Manx shearwaters, and that was really cool. But there was we had a white-tailed kite that followed the boat for like 2 or 3 hours.
That's weird.
Yeah, we had a white-banded mockingbird come land on the boat. I remember having grassland yellowfinch. We had some pipits fly over. Just a bunch of stuff. And I remember I sent these lists to both you guys at the time because I was like, I just did not expect anything like this. Did not know to expect anything like this. And it sounded like at the time there were some other guys that we talked to that kind of had similar, knew of some similar records, but that there wasn't a whole lot like this. We had rufous-collared sparrows out there, as you might perhaps expect. I don't know. But a lot of this stuff I never thought of really as something that would get high enough and be moving high enough to get pulled out to sea by some hard northwest winds. So that was fascinating. And yeah, just like a bunch of stuff offshore, you just don't expect out there. I know you guys have had similar experiences.
No, I haven't. No.
Yeah, and that's actually
Not
quite far
like that,
outside
actually.
my pelagic experience.
That sounds
Furnariids flying around offshore.
Yeah, that one, the pale-breasted spinetail was really kind of the one that sticks out as wild. But I do remember reading later. I think Alvaro, you put me onto some literature where it shows that they are known to move a little bit.
Yeah, and they may be more migratory than people think, and there are some things that are equally weird, like little ground-dwelling, long-tailed, funny things that you would think would never migrate that do, right? Like austral canisteros migrate to central Chile.
You could picture running into some tyrant flycatchers out there as well, right?
Yeah, and even rufous-collared sparrows. The entire southern population is migratory, so you just there's still a lot not clarified, down in southern South America as to the people who live there. They'll tell you, oh yeah, those all leave, or those go. They're coastal in the summer, or they have the patterns down, but they kind of haven't been put out in a way that it's sort of easily findable in field guides or so that we can understand some of these things a little bit better. Guira cuckoo, there's vagrant records now in the Chilean side of the Andes, so they've crossed the Andes, and they look, they're like an ani, and you think, well, anis can't get anywhere, but actually anis
they move around quite a bit
places, right?
I remember somebody said on one of the tours, they said a guira cuckoo is like a punk rock ani, and I was like, I feel like that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Yeah,
pretty good description.
Yeah. I think we have an assumption that you got to look like a blackpoll warbler and be kind of this big muscle-bound, long-winged, sleek thing to get anywhere. But then you look at, rails and you think, oh boy, they get places, like purple gallinule. That does not look like a bird that can get places,
right.
But they do.
And they really do. So.
Yeah, rails are some of the best dispersers, that we've documented with all the flightless rails that evolved independently throughout the Pacific and vagrants all over the world.
Yeah. How do flightless rails disperse, Tom? I don't get it.
I think it happens before they become flightless, but I'm
no expert. I missed this point. Now it makes sense.
But while talking about birds that don't seem like they should fly over water and land on the water, when you mention non-seabirds at sea, I immediately thought of the willow ptarmigan off of Alaska. And there's a paper in the Wilson Bulletin describing observers that were on a salmon survey, and they were actually pretty far offshore. Well, as far as the ptarmigan goes, they were like 8 to 17 kilometers, I'm reading here,
Mm-hmm.
offshore. And they started seeing these willow ptarmigan flying around, and that some of them actually landed on their ship. And that they ended up with a flock of over 100 willow ptarmigan.
That's
and
nuts.
Some of them were landing on the water. And
That's
then
what I
taking
remember.
Off again.
That's what I remember is one of the photos they show, like there's some of the ptarmigan are actually on the water. I'm like, how does that happen? Like, how long can they sit there for? I don't know how that works.
It turns out willow ptarmigan migration has been really well documented, and some of these birds probably move hundreds of kilometers. And that's something I'd really like to see someday. Would be a big flight of willow ptarmigan.
Can you imagine
coming out of the Brooks Range or something like that?
Oh my God!
Probably like a funneling point could be, some spot right in southernmost James Bay or something. You sit there in November and watch them fly over.
Yeah, maybe Churchill. I don't know, but
yeah. So I want to mention probably one of the most interesting historical birds seen on a boat that I remembered about this. I just earlier today that there's this guy Darwin. He was on a boat called the Beagle, and in 1831,
you're talking about Chuck.
This is Chuck Darwin.
Yeah,
Chuck Darwin. Yeah,
that guy's pretty good.
As they were coming, in to exactly where you were, to the Rio de la Plata, going towards Buenos Aires, but they were well offshore still. From what I understand, a speckled rail, also known as speckled crake, landed on the boat and was collected by Darwin.
That's a ghost
at that point, and that is a bird that has shown up in these weird places and maybe highly migratory. It's kind of like a little yellow rail. It's actually related to a black rail.
Oh, really? Because they've got it as
like a yellow.
They've got it as a Caternicops. It's one of the three Caternicops.
It is now, but the genetics show that in fact it's a black rail. It's actually the sort of earliest in the lineage of the black rail.
It's the inaccessible mainland rail.
Yeah, it's the accessible rail.
It does look like a really cool bird. I can't remember. We were talking somewhere about speckled rails recently.
I've never seen it.
Yeah, I mean, there's 14 photos in eBird, 23 observations, very, very few, one audio recording, and a good percentage of these are birds basically that have turned up in Buenos Aires, right? Or like a city where they got stuck with maybe fog, or they hit a window or something and somebody found them. It's pretty much a mythical bird.
I just looked this up while we're talking. In fact, the type specimen is the one collected on the Beagle by Darwin in 1841, Rio de la Plata.
Wow.
Shot on board the Beagle.
Probably were a lot more of them back then, I would guess, but who knows?
Yeah. You got to be careful
that's
if you're doing collecting on board a ship. You don't want to pop a hole right through the hull.
Yeah.
That's right.
Don't want to learn that one the hard way. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I'm sure they were well equipped to do it correctly, but never know. I hear Darwin was crazy,
Yeah.
He would go nuts when he saw a new bird. Oh yeah. His eBird lists were awesome.
I haven't been too impressed with his photos and videos, though. It's like really low resolution stuff.
Leave a little something to be desired.
Yeah. But for me, I actually have never really had a absolutely insane situation happen on boats. They've all been sort of predictable, like rare birds, like really good rare eastern warblers that were offshore, what you kind of almost expect in a sense in California. We have had things that were a little odd, like, short-eared owls flying around out there in the ocean, and bald eagle, 30 miles offshore or something, 20 miles offshore, things that sort of, but a real just weirdo, like almost totally unexpected thing. Not really. I'm always impressed, though, that the first offshore kind of lost passerines we get every year are brown-headed cowbirds, and they are always juveniles. And like, it's clockwork, they're the first one. It's sort of, okay, vagrant season starting, the cowbirds are here. Next, we'll get one of the warblers. But perhaps one of the best ones was there's this warbler that was it coming out of the fog and through the fog, and we're trying to photograph it. This is real good focusing cameras, trying to get a look at it, and it was really tough to just sort of sort out what it was because it wasn't landing. And I remember saying, "Yeah, it's a black bull. I think it's a black bull." And there's this young birder, Logan Kale, who was on the boat, and Logan, who was actually quite young at that point, said, "That's a bay-breasted." And I'm like, "That's a really good bird here, son." He knew exactly how good that bird was. That is 10 times more than 10 times rarer than a black bull warbler. And a couple of us eventually managed to get a photo of it in flight.
Wow.
And it was a bay-breasted warbler. It was not a black bull. And somehow he had the resolution to just see that, and we could get it to a point, but I couldn't have convinced myself that I was seeing a bay-breasted warbler flying around in the fog on a moving boat. Yet Logan did, and I thought that was pretty cool. That I don't know. Sometimes you get the right view or something, or sometimes you just have really good eyes. Right?
Yeah.
I think
just lock it in.
He had it all. He has it all. Yeah. So that was cool. That was an exciting, and it's still the only one I've seen in this county and in California.
Was that San Mateo County, Albert?
San Mateo County.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's a good one.
It's interesting what you were saying about the cowbirds offshore. I've spent a lot more time offshore on the East Coast than on the West Coast of the United States and Canada. And I've been really impressed by brown-headed cowbird and barn swallow being the two most abundant passerines in the summertime, like mid-July through August, before more of the traditional long-distance migrants beyond barn swallow start moving through. Those two are predictably the two most common land birds that you see out at sea.
Yeah, I think I don't know. You start trying to put a picture together of why, and I don't know if there are juveniles out there, but why it would be that it's them. Adults, if you're thinking, oh, they're kind of rummaging around, still trying to find a nest, and they got lost. I don't know. But maybe cowbirds move way more than we think. They're actually much more mobile and migratory than red-winged blackbirds, for example.
It may just be that when you remove land from the equation, you can see the edge of this fuzzy electron cloud of bajillions of cowbirds that are flying around during the summer months, and you're just getting the, whatever the unlucky outliers, or maybe
the
tremendous pioneers.
Yeah, another kind of classic, I think, was Monterey Bay. I wasn't there, but I heard about this, a shorebird flying around a boat that was sort of being seen and kind of coming in and out of view. And I think Todd Easterly, who's legendary in California, said, "That's a sharp-tailed sandpiper."
Oh, man.
And, and clicked photos, and it was a sharp-tailed sandpiper. Of course, never landed, went by. Good bird.
Just all in flight.
Identified at sea, all in flight. And, that's kind of magic too, that kind of thing.
Wow. Yeah, we talked a little bit. One of my favorite ones was the prothonotary warbler.
Halfway between the Falklands and South Georgia.
Yes.
That's pretty far away.
Yeah. I mean, it's so out there in every way, and it's, golden swamp warbler, right? And what is somebody, it's like a little private yacht or something, right?
Yeah, some kind of sailing vessel.
Yeah.
In January.
Yeah, I can't imagine being on the boat and then, all of a sudden being oh yeah, there's prothonotary warblers just coming in here. Yeah.
There's another historically classic bird, which some people have frowned upon accepting it in a sense. But it was, I think it was a boat coming back from Antarctica and heading towards sort of the southernmost point, the Cape Horn. and a certain Roger Torrey Peterson was on board. And I don't know if it was maybe in the 40s, 50s. So the bird was collected. It was a bridal tern was down there, and or maybe it landed on the boat or something. But there's a specimen of it from south of Cape Horn, Peterson, and some folks have wondered if it was riding around with that boat somehow, or it must have been dead on the boat. That's what must have happened. That's why there's some concern about where it came from. But it's there's such weird things that can happen when you're shipboard. And there used to be, it probably still is, maybe online, a journal called a Sea Swallow, and the Sea Swallow was the Navy, the British Navy bird watching club. Essentially, there's enough birders in the Navy that they would put out their sightings, and there were a lot of wackadoodle sort of land bird sightings on these military vessels way out there. So there's a whole history of people seeing these oddball birds, and you get just this little sample of what's going on, and it could be actually moderately important biological stuff that if you could put it all together, understand what these birds are doing from these vagrant records. But we haven't had anything quite to start piecing it together in the same way as the sea swallow. Maybe if all those records got on eBird, we could, piece some patterns together of some stuff. But it's pretty neat, pretty neat.
One of the most recent ones that pops into my head from my own time at sea, it also involves a prothonotary warbler. And I was out with the Brookline Bird Club last summer in the waters south of Nantucket, Massachusetts. We were looking for white-faced storm petrels and all sorts of things. And this is one of these overnight trips where you go out during the daytime and then you actually spend the night on the boat at the edge of the continental shelf and then wake up the next day and bird your way back to Cape Cod. And I tend to take a beanbag chair with me, which is a real cozy way to sleep on one of these boats. And I was nestled in my beanbag chair up there on the second deck and started to, I was asleep and started to hear these little zitting flight calls from migratory birds. And at first I was kind of in this dazed, not fully conscious state, and then started hearing this very, thin, piercing flight call over and over again, and kind of got jolted awake and grew increasingly convinced that there was a prothonotary warbler flying around, and finally got up out of the beanbag chair. And sure enough, there's this little streak of yellow that's sort of orbiting the fishing boat, the Helen H. And the thing stuck around for quite a while. And we actually managed to get some pictures of this bird flying around in the lights at night. But prothonotary warbler is quite an unusual bird in New England, and was something I hadn't seen offshore from New England before. And after that, we were so excited, we stayed up and we went down and caught a bunch of tuna downstairs. It was a great night.
Was that the same trip that you did succeed in seeing some white-faced storm petrels?
I think we saw a couple, 200-300.
Okay, it wasn't the. I was going to say it was 200 or 300, right? Yeah.
I think we ended up seeing over 500 white-faced storm petrels.
Yeah,
they were. That was kind of an amazing.
That's nuts.
A couple of days out there.
Yeah, pure crazy. Yeah, one of the other ones I remember you had, Tom. This is going back a while. It was one of the cruises, research cruises you did. I think it was off Virginia, and you photographed an Oregon junco.
Yeah, that may actually have been off of Brian Pattison's boat.
Oh, really?
Stormy Petrel 2. We were doing some surveys off the mouth of Chesapeake Bay. And, I was out there with Dick Feet and some of his students. And, we had this little songbird flying by. And it never landed on the boat, but it circled us a few times. And that was a Oregon dark-eyed junco.
Yeah.
That was really cool. And it was on April 1st. It was an April Fool's junco.
I mean, I don't know about you. How many other Oregon juncos have you seen in the East? I mean, I think I've seen I've seen two that I can think of, but I think that's it.
Yeah, I'm not sure I've ever seen a convincing one on land on the East Coast.
Yeah. So that's your only one, huh?
That might be it. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a mind blower. I remember seeing the photos. I was like, what? Like, what are the odds of that? Just seemed
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah.
I think a lot of this gets down to one of the key reasons I think why we all like pelagic birding, and it's so we've done a lot of different kinds of birding. There's all sorts of great birding, but there's some just level of ratcheted up notches of weirdness that can go on in a boat, whether it's like an oddball land bird that's out there, some crazy whale, fish, uh, or a seabird that is in the wrong ocean, and it just sort of seems like all you got to do is put in your time out at sea, and these things will happen to you. And the moment they do happen, you chase them
Yeah.
again. Like you want that next trip. You
Yeah,
want to
what's the next
see,
crazy thing? Yeah.
yeah, will I ever see 500 white-faced storm petrels ever again in North America?
No.
Will that ever happen? And there's it's almost like, yeah, it's like, some of the kind of sports fans that always talk about certain games or certain series
Yeah.
that are legendary. You can feel like that happens to you on a pelagic um, birding trip at times, or a cruise or something, and then you get hooked. Like it's like a more so than I think a lot of other type of birding. There's just and because it's hard, it's actually sometimes
It's the
painful
hardest kind of
to be
birding
out
there
on a
is.
boat.
I
Yeah,
would say seabirding is
can
the
be
hardest kind there
uncomfortable.
is. Like, boats moving, you're moving. Often there's weather to contend with. The birds are, you have to figure out what distance they are. They're like monochromatic a lot of the time. You're looking at
Yeah,
behavior and shape, subtleties. Pretty tough.
It's a good thing there
yeah,
aren't
trying to
trees in the
photograph.
way.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
does
that's
help.
right.
Lack of trees
Yeah,
does help. Yeah.
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 So I want to shift a little bit to, I think one of the things that I think Tom has become kind of famous for, especially online, is his photographs of birds in flight.
Yeah.
Like, people will say, if you take a good photo of a bird in flight, they'll say, "Oh boy, that's almost Tom Johnson quality," or something. Like,
Tom
he is
Johnson-esque.
the
Yeah.
Tom Johnson-esque, which you should be rather proud of. That you have reached enough people with what you do that they really feel like you're great at it. We agree, you're great at all sorts of things in the birding world, but I am amazed at some of the photos you take of birds in flight. I'm sure that you don't show us the 10,000 that are no good. You show us the good ones, but we all do that. But what is your secret, Mr. Tom Johnson? Like, how do you train? How do you get to this Olympic
What
level of
performance
bird?
enhancing drugs are you using, Tom?
That's right.
Well, I
You
just
know,
drove by the museum here in Philadelphia on the way over to George's house, and it reminded me of Rocky. And I don't know if you recall the training montage, but just sort of run that through your head. That's about what it's like.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
No, been a lot of trial and error and messing around and taking a lot of really, really terrible photos that occupy untold hundreds of gigabytes on hard drives scattered around my house. And uh, just an incredible amount of failure with occasional bursts of really fun photos layered on top of it. And I also have the great benefit of being somewhere where I can reliably go out in the morning and see a whole lot of birds flying by basically in the same plane going by in Cape May from August to November when the uh, fall migration's going on here. We have this amazing redirected morning flight of birds that are actually flying north along the west side of the Cape May Peninsula. And this happens many places along the East Coast, and increasingly we're finding in many other places. Um, but it provides a really well lit way to watch morning flight and just generally birds flying by. And that's been a really good lab for practicing flight photography.
time, effort, and dedicated thought to the art form.
The
I
craft,
think it's probably
yeah.
at the expense of a great many other things.
Yeah, he's no good at doing the Rubik's Cube, for example.
Yeah, he's terrible at limbo. He can't limbo at all.
That's right. Can't not like us,
Yeah,
because we spend a lot of time doing
yeah,
limbo.
exactly.
That's right.
Really good at that.
Yeah, and he probably doesn't eat Necco wafers either.
Yeah, well, he should. I mean, but frankly, you know what? That's more for me, so that's fine.
I'm shaking his head.
My goodness, I've seen some really, really bad takes on the internet in recent years, and God, the one that really just takes the cake was George Armistead extolling the virtues of the flavorless, chalk-like, cardboard-esque Necco wafer, and I just couldn't believe it. George, would you care to explain yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's almost no explanation needed because they are such an exquisite. The New England Candy Company, right? That's what it comes from. New England Candy Company. They have done great work for these many decades.
With their acronym?
Yeah, well, with their acronym and with their candies. I'm pretty sure they make those little hearts, the Valentine's Day heart candy as well.
Another winner.
Yeah, I love those.
The flavor profile actually fits pretty well with the Necco wafer.
Yeah. No, they're so good. Yeah, I mean, I'll go through 2 or 3 stacks of those things at a time. Now, they are hard to find, and you could argue as to why that may be. But I've loved Neccos since I was a small child, and to this very day, I really relish them, and I really appreciate people that also relish them. I really do. It means a lot.
I did look up the worst candies in the world kind of thing, and I think Necco wafer was like 5 out of the top 10. Each one of the flavors
really
I think got its own.
Really
slot,
curious about what the others would be.
Oh.
Yeah, just an editorial note here.
I think those little hearts.
Oh man, those hearts are terrible too. Molly, just an editorial note here. If you're going to be whacking up this episode, if you could add a parental advisory to make sure that parents don't let their children absorb these kind of candy rumors from George.
This is good commentary we're getting here. I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah. Well, I think both of you need to work on your taste buds a little bit and refine them. Yeah, it's.
I looked up the worst candy. Those little candy corn things are right up there.
I love those.
And the little soda pop bottle thing.
Color me surprised, right? George Armistead.
And then those fake peanut looking bits, the orange peanut things. Yeah.
I don't know if I know those.
Oh yes, those are made from the styrofoam packing that the Necco wafers come in the large box.
Yeah. Wax cola bottles. That's what
I legit love candy corn.
Tootsie Rolls.
Yeah, I used to like those, but then I ate too many one time and got a little sick, and I've never really been able to go back to them after that. Yeah, I'll spare you any more details about that story.
Yeah, those little yellow baby chick things.
Yeah, the Peeps. I don't much care for those. I got to admit, those don't do much for me.
God, Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
You look so disappointed.
I just don't know.
Yeah.
I just don't know. I mean, I'm looking through really bad candy here, and some of these I'm glad to say I've never seen in my life, but others I have. And
I'm a proud
Necco wafers.
Proud connoisseur.
I think in Canada they made them without that name, because when this came up, I did not know what they were. As I told you before, George, I had to look them up. But then when I looked them up, I'm like, oh, I know those things. I just didn't know they were called Necco wafers.
The only thing worse, I know people said like on Halloween, like if somebody gave you like an apple, instead, or like a little those little cartons of raisins.
The apple is actually to clean your mouth out after you've had the Necco wafer.
Yeah, see, I love a good apple, but I was disappointed when they'd be handed out Halloween. That did seem.
Yeah, there was always this fear that the apple, somebody's going to put razor blades in the apple and all this. I was worried that they were going to put Necco wafers in my apples. I mean, that's what I was worried about. It's ruined my day.
Well,
but
yeah. I'd encourage people to give the Necco wafers another try. But yeah.
But Tom, one thing we were thinking about asking you too, given your photography skills and your video skills, which is something you've been doing, about what's your thought or what's your progress in moving from different equipment, right? Like everybody's looking at mirrorless and this whole deal. Should I, shouldn't I? What was your process through all this? And what do you go out and, you don't have to give us all the full details, but this general, if people are thinking about doing this, what are the benefits of shifting or why you do it?
Yeah, I did switch over to mirrorless cameras a couple of years ago, and I've been using the Canon R5, which is a very fancy camera, and using that with a zoom lens from Canon, a 100 to 500 millimeter that's specifically designed to be used on mirrorless bodies. And gosh, it's really nice. I've just been really blown away by the speed and the accuracy of the autofocus. And one of the great selling points is that you can switch back and forth between stills and video pretty seamlessly, and actually look through the camera's viewfinder and record the video live as you're seeing it with the camera pressed up against your face, and you can watch this scene unfold as you're actually recording the bird or the whale or the Necco wafer or whatever you're pointing at. And
your Necco wafer footage is flawless, by the way.
No, thank you. You should see that in slow-mo.
Crisp.
They don't go anywhere because nobody's eating them. And actually that brings up the point in these newer cameras are able to record high frame rate video at very high resolution. So, for example, you could use one of these Canon mirrorless cameras and record 4K video at 120 frames per second. And most video that you see played back is being played back at 24 or 30 frames per second. So if you have 120 frames per second, that's like quarter speed slow motion. And birds in flight look really cool if you slow them down, to a quarter speed. And so I've had a real fun time playing around with that over the last few years, especially at sea, and getting some video of seabirds and marine mammals that you just see for little snippets of time. But if you play back one of these videos, you get them for 4 times as long.
And do you use any software later to, make sure the bird is centered on the screen, or do you basically just go with what you picked up in the field, or do you do sort of some fancy stuff with your computer on it too?
I do some fancy stuff that severely taxes my aging laptop. No, I do usually pull those videos into video editing software, Final Cut Pro on Apple, and play around, do some stabilization. You got to be careful with stabilization because sometimes your bird will start jerking around in unnatural ways. But if you have some kind of a horizon or a watery background, you can get a pretty nice stable image of a bird flying by.
Yeah. Now I've been impressed with some of the video footage, and it's you as a birder seeing some of these things slow down. You get to see stuff that you don't. You lose, you just can't see when in real speed, and when you see it slow down and you understand it, it actually makes you understand the movement and the actual bird better in real life. You know what I mean? Like it's almost like a little teaching technique for you to learn the bird is to see it slow down.
I feel that way about photography in general. Just getting to have your instant replay, you kind of check your assumptions and your initial impressions, and then be all that much more prepared for the next time the same thing flies by.
Right.
With video, I totally agree, and I think some people would probably make the point that you lose some element of flight style by slowing it down. You don't quite get the crispness of the flaps or whatever. But I learned all kinds of things about storm petrels and shear waters just by watching, slowed down video footage after the fact.
Yeah. I was thinking Jaegers when you said, your assumptions and testing them with photography. That's one of the groups that it's been difficult historically. And now I find that it's easier and easier as you have, you take a photograph, you go, okay, that is actually a long-tailed. And then next time it comes around, you are more likely to actually identify it correctly. Um, it's been a real helpful thing to sort of learn Jaegers on the fly, as you might say, by using photography on a boat.
I think that's become kind of a classic trope on pelagic trips is somebody will call out a Jaeger and everybody will kind of pivot, dial in. The photography battalion will dial in on it. And then everybody will hunch over, do a quick chimp job on the back of the camera. And then you'll hear often a unified long-tailed, or sometimes you'll get the long-tailed parasitic bomberine. Get all three of them called out for the same bird. It's great fun, but at least there's some objective or more objective evidence to evaluate.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I've thought too about field marks that are really useful looking at photographs that you actually can't see in the field. You just too quick with the flapping underwing patterns and all these kind of things that you can pick up with a photograph. And given now that people have great cameras, many people or can do digiscoping, etc., it seems like a valid thing to use field marks that are photo only sometimes and mention them in a book or in an article because we're birding in a different way now, right? With imagery is part of how we do it.
I think mentioning those sorts of things also makes people more aware of them, to look for them through their scopes, through their binoculars, kind of in in live action. And I think that's significantly improved my birding skills over the years, is being able to go back and study the pictures and sort of challenge assumptions that I made in the field. And so in some cases correct those when I've made a mistake, or just learn something in general later on.
Yeah, that's pretty. I mean, how much better can this guy get in the field? I mean,
it'd be difficult, I think.
Yes, out.
Yeah,
he's maxing out.
I got to say, I'm preparing to make the leap myself. I'm excited
to get good in the field.
Yeah, well, hopefully. I don't know if I'll ever make that leap, but I'm definitely looking forward to switching to mirrorless soon and delving into that. That'll be a whole new realm for me. I know you guys have both are both there, so and getting really cool stuff.
So I would say to you and other folks considering this, assuming there's the financials, right, kind of allow it. I delayed because I did not want to spend a bunch of money. Like, seriously, I just did not, and most of us don't want to spend a bunch of money necessarily to, do certain things. But if you're keen on really kind of dialing up what you can get photo-wise, the mirrorless is once I learned how to do it, there's the learning process and so forth. I'm like, oh man, I should have done this earlier. I should have gone for it. I started thinking of trips I'd done where I didn't have this camera or this, setup. And I thought, oh, it would have been great to have this. So if you're hesitating yet can afford it or want it, or do it. Is what I'd say.
For some people, carrying a camera with an interchangeable lens is kind of a roadblock because of the perceived weight. And one thing that's really cool about these mirrorless cameras and the accompanying lenses is that they're actually more compact and lighter weight than the equivalent setup in the DSLR world that people have been living in for the last 20 years. And I think that's a real selling point on the mirrorless rigs, whether you're doing a Canon or Nikon or Sony or even Olympus.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, it's a brave new world out there. I'm looking forward to diving in. I know a bunch of other folks as well. So we have a couple things going on here, Alvaro. We have Thai food that has arrived. We have an approaching thunderstorm that I can hear periodically here. And we have an early morning flight to prepare for as well. And we also got to move Tom's car. It's not in front of a driveway, but don't want to infuriate the neighbors here.
Yeah, as a country boy, I'm not versed in the parking terms of this very narrow Philadelphia street that George lives on.
Good show, Parking Wars. Recommended. Worth checking out sometime. Based in Philly.
No, find that guy that you when you parked in front of his driveway. Park in front of that driveway again. See what
Definitely
happens.
Not doing that. It's a terrible idea. Yeah.
and then just to say you're sorry, bring him a big bowl full of Necco wafers.
There you go. He might like that. He is an older gentleman, so it might actually be right up his alley. We'll see. Yeah. Well, thanks everybody for listening. We look forward to being back with you again real soon. Tom, thanks so much for doing this. Appreciate it, man.
Thank you, guys. It's great to see how the sausage is made here. And George, your podcast studio is exquisite. And I just
it's amazing,
want to
isn't
let
it?
you know that I really appreciate you letting me in here.
Yeah. No, it's like
it's good stuff.
It's pretty. Yeah, the soundproofing and the whole.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's basically
golden retriever, everything. Yeah,
that's right. Everything. Yeah, thanks, Tom. This has been fun to talk about stuff that. You know so much about, and it's just fun talking birds, offshore birds, cameras, flight shots, you name it. We had a good time with it. So thank you.
All right. Cheers, folks. We'll see you next time.